Hello and welcome back to Graiguenamanagh for a new video. As I had hinted at in the last video, in this one I want to make a start in showing you how you can map a heritage trail. And obviously we cannot just copy this map here because it is an Ordnance Survey map and it's copyrighted. So there's a little bit of legwork involved. The way that I would do that is by mapping all the stops along the heritage trail. That might be plaques, or it might be other types of information like information boards. In Wales I came across QR codes, and I would also photograph these so I have a record of where they are if you have the GPS turned on in your camera, and also you can transcribe the inscription of the information devices later on at home rather than standing there being exposed to the weather and doing that. As usual, I was also pressed for time because the bus only leaves me an hour in Graiguenamanagh, and I did not want to waste that transcribing inscriptions of plaques, which I could do at home, rather than covering most of the heritage trail that I could cover within an hour. Unfortunately, most of the plaques in Graiguenamanagh were already mapped when I arrived here today, mostly probably by me on previous visits, so I had to go all the way up to the top of High Street to find one that I hadn't mapped before. And when I arrived there, I realized that it wasn't a plaque at all, because it's not wall mounted, so it doesn't really count as a plaque. So I decided instead to map it as an information board. And this is how I did that. If you want to map a plaque instead, if you're using OSMAnd, where I typed in information, you type in memorial, and then you go into the advanced tags and you use memorial plaque instead of information board. And here is another example where there was no plaque at all, where the memorial was the only information available. In preparation of going to Graiguenamanagh to record this video and to record the missing plaques, I had sent an email to the library in Graiguenamanagh hoping that they would have a leaflet about the heritage trail, which they did, and they scanned it and they sent it to me. But of course, because it's a paper leaflet and they scanned it, half of it is upside down. You just have to either be able to turn the document or be able to read upside down. But all I really needed were the headings. I didn't really have to read the whole text, and I knew where most of that was anyway already from previous visits. It does help to know the locality already and to not go out on a limb, especially when you only have an hour's time. You see they're all numbered and there are 27 in total. This is only the front page there, and the other numbers 15 to 27 are on the other page, which also has the map of the heritage trail, which we are not allowed to use, of course. Of course, you don't have to use OSMAnd to add all these plaques and information devices to the map. You can use every door or any app that you feel comfortable with, but I am still sticking to OSMAnd, even though it's not the most comfortable thing even for me to do. And I'm glad I copied the inscription of that information board because I forgot to take a picture, so I couldn't have added the inscription later. Anyway, once you have all the stops on your heritage trail added, it's time to create a relation of all of them. There are two different types of heritage trails. One where you have an actual trail that you follow, it's like a walking route, and I would map that as a relation type route, and it will be shown on OSMAnd, for example, if you have the hiking trail layer activated, and it will also be shown on waymarked trails on that map. For a lot of heritage trails in Ireland that I have come across, you're not supposed to follow a certain route. It's more like an exploratory trail where you just happen to come across a plaque here and a plaque there and a monument there and these kinds of things. And you cannot use the relation type route for that. You have to use site, which is, as it's described here, a site relation is used to group several objects together. And they can be nodes and ways and areas. So that's very good for this kind of heritage trail where you're mostly exploring. So this is what we're going to use. And this is the information board that I added. And I will go into the editor. And I also added the well that is no longer in use, so I added the prefix, the lifecycle prefix was man-made water well. So it's still there as a reference to what this sign is talking about. So here are the tags that I have added earlier. I've also added the color blue later on, which you can do. And to create the relation, you have to have one member for the new relation highlighted. In this case, it's this node. And then you go onto the plus for relations. And you don't choose a parent relation because it doesn't exist yet. So you have to create it by clicking on new relation. And down here, I don't know in what order they are, but it's in some point there is one that is called site. And you just click on that. And you see that automatically adds the first tag, which is type site. And you can give it a name. In this case, this would be Graiguenamanagh Heritage Trail. If it has an Irish name as well, when you're in the Gaeltacht, or if for some reason they have come up with an Irish name, you can add that as well using the name :GA tag. If you're in the Gaeltacht, you don't need the GA, you just use name because it's the standard language there. So I'll also add name EN and just copy what I have written here. I don't know if there's an official Irish name for this one, so I can't add it, and I'm not going to go and translate it myself because that will just go wrong. And you also see that it automatically has added this first member to the relation. In this video, we're only going to do very basic stuff, and then in the next video, we're going to flesh the whole thing out a bit more. So we could go and add the next part. I'll just go back down High Street and down here. The next one would be the plaque for the monastic mills. And I just click on that. And of course I have to zoom out because I have to have at least one member of the relation also on screen. And it's over here. Otherwise it won't show it. And if I go into relations now, in the drop down menu, the first one that comes up is site Graiguenamanagh Heritage Trail. And I can go along and add more of them. There is a plaque here in this alley, which is allegedly called River Alley, but it's for the assembly rooms. And I can add that. I have to just go back to be sure I have the last one I added on screen. And so on until I have all the plaques and locations added that I need to add. Not all of them have plaques or information boards. And in the next video or the next one after, haven't decided yet, I will also add the objects that are actually the plaques are referring to the heritage trail, which I think makes a lot of sense. And there's the Thomas Cheevers Memorial. Zoom out again, I keep forgetting that. Of course, it all works a bit different if you're doing it in JOSM. It's a bit more convenient, but since my videos never use JOSM, I can't start now with this more or less complex topic like this. So there are a couple of those now added. I'm just going to save that now. I still have to add more, but I don't think it's terribly exciting for you to watch me doing that. Created relation for Graiguenamanagh Heritage Trail. Added POIs, points of interest, to relation. Sources survey and heritage trail leaflet. But you see, you don't need to look at the map in the leaflet, and you just walk around and you just collect the data, and you just look at the list on the leaflet. You don't have to look at the map. You can just look at the list of, I think it's 27 points along the trail, and if you just work off that, there's no danger of copying the Ordnance Survey map by accident or, you know, on purpose and pretending you haven't copied it from there. And we're just going to look for that heritage trail using overpass to see how much progress we've made so far. And we are looking for name equals, and in quotes, Graiguenamanagh Heritage Trail. And just click on build query and change that to relation. The NWR, nodes, ways, relations, to just relation, because that's what it is. And hit run, and that should show us the pieces that we have mapped so far. Or maybe not, maybe I haven't waited long enough. So these are the 8 points I've added so far. And I'm just going to continue on with that until I have everything added that I have photographs of and that I know is part of the heritage trail. Only the plaques so far. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you soon again in the next video. Hope to see you there. Slán go fóill.